Good morning, Kenya. This is KBC. My name is Njue, and this is News Check. Well, News Check is a program that endeavors to ensure that you are kept abreast on all the latest happening around you. A lot is happening today, and also, as usual, we always have a topical issue that we are discussing. And today, it's all about the current drought. It's October, and we should be expecting the showers of blessings. Well, a few showers here and there, but the weatherman had warned that the short rains that are scheduled to be beginning in October to the month of December will not only be suppressed, they will not be sufficient to actualize all the agendas that we want in the country. And that notwithstanding, 29 counties now, as we speak, are in dire need of food. Over 4.1 million Kenyans are staring at hunger, and concerted efforts have been on the rise. The government last year did announce the drought as a national emergency, and some of the leaders, and especially from the northern frontier, asked the President, William Ruto, to declare it a national disaster so that all the resources could be pulled to ensure that Kenya, we are done and dusted when it comes to matters drought. But it is a perennial. It's always recurring each and every year. When we have short rains, it's a problem that we have been having. But in as much as we have it, the drought is more or less affecting a lot of counties in the country. The northern frontier, and especially the pastoralist community, are the worst affected. Schools, families, communities, there are even disputes that have ended up claiming lives because of water and pasture. That is the topic of discussion this morning, and we do appreciate your feedback on all our social media spaces as we are live. Indeed, thank you so much for joining us. And without further ado, let me introduce my two guests this morning, and beginning from my immediate left, we have Honorable Salah Yakub, who is the MP of Fafi in Garissa County. Karibu sana mheshimiwa. And just next to him is another Honorable Hussein Abdi Bare, who is the MP of Tarjab, all the way from Wajir County. Gentlemen, karibuni sana.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
Well. Where do we begin? Because, well, it's quite a hot discussion, and when we talk about the northern frontier. And first things first, I remember a week ago you did give the NGOs in your constituency, you actually gave them a caution to do exactly what they're supposed to do, because we have seen some of the NGOs are not quite doing what exactly they're supposed to be doing when it comes to some of the duties, and especially now that Garissa is one of the counties that is worst affected by the current drought.
Thank you very much. It's as if you said the truth. What we have is an alarming situation. You have just mentioned it's 29 out of 47 counties. That is over half of the population now is affected. New entrants are Migori, Homa Bay, Nyandarua, Embu. These are new places, frontiers. These are new frontiers on drought. For us, we have been used to it, although now it's an alarming situation. What I did last weekend, the way you said is because the government thinks there are NGOs working on the ground. It's like a blanket of performance being shown to the government. What happened is there are over 17 or 20 NGOs in my area, most of them international NGOs. When we calculated the amount of money they say they are pumping into my constituency or Garissa County is to the tune of 1 billion Kenya shillings. And hardly will you see anything of tangible substances. They are duplicating their work. They are doing an easy thing, like giving a cash of 3,000, 4,000 to individuals for a period of 2 months, and then they go. So, and they have no offices, there are no staffs. It's just vehicle moving around. That's why we said these people might be shielding from us, the government, to see what is actually at the ground, hoping that the government thinks that okay, there are enough NGOs covered by Fafi constituencies, covered in Fafi constituencies. But that's not the situation. That's why we said now, can you come and tell us actually what you are doing? And those who turn up, there was somebody from NGO Coordination Board, and he was shocked. He said, what I can see now is not what is in our books. And these people are not in stocks to tell us what's actually happening. So the thing was just to gear them up, to quench them, to tell them that what are you doing? Don't put us a blanket, don't cover us from the government, international communities, saying that you're actually doing a job which we think is not related, is not in correspondence to the actual activity which will have been done. So that's why we gave them address reactions to them. And I'm happy some of them now are positively reacting, and they're trying to now come up and actually perform better than the way it was. But the situation, as you said, is dire. Half of the population is really affected. Most of the schools in our area are closed. You have seen now what's happening in Kitui, Ngamias in Umizwa, Kenyans being killed by people from our area. These are conflicts related to droughts. You see what is happening in West Pokot and the Marakwets and whatever. It's related to drought and the resource fight. You see what's happening in Baragoi and Samburu, resource fight. What's happening in Ojer West, 3,000 camels were last week rustled from that area by other Kenyans. You see what's happening in all these things are drought-related issues. Resource for, fight for resources, mega resources like pasture and water. These are things what's happening.
And we will be touching on that because it is something that has been recurring each and every year, but we need a solution for that.
Yes.
And let me bring in Honorable Bare. Indeed, we have seen the images on television, on newspaper, on social media. The situation is dire, the worst drought in over 40 years. What is the situation on the ground in your constituency in Wajir?
Well, thank you very much. Like many other constituencies in northern Kenya, and also additional counties like that they've been mentioned, the situation is quite dire. In fact, in my constituency, it began a little early, where the death of livestock, people, all students running away from school because of lack of food, because the parents cannot pay fees and the teachers cannot keep them in school. So abandoned schools, carcasses everywhere, very charred, very burnt vegetation, the small shrubs that exist, desolate settlements and, outskirts settlements, people who are emaciated and really bones and, just skins hanging on each other, just people holding on to life, just holding to mere life, but not living, but not really just existing, not living well. That is the situation that is on the ground. And the little support that the government has declared is not enough, and not only enough, but the coordination is not good. It's not good in the sense that the MPs are out of the program as it is now. So it's something that's being handled by largely the provincial administration and the special program department, but then the MPs are out. So in as much as some effort, because it's a large-scale issue, in as much as the support the government is doing is there, but it is little, too late, and also the coordination is keeping away the political leadership that will have really followed it up. So the situation is quite terrible as it is now.
Yeah, and Honorable Salah, looking at what the governors talked about during the induction, I remember there's a time the drought was declared a national disaster. Right now, it was only declared a national emergency. And during the induction last week, the governors from arid and semi-arid regions talked about, please, President, declare this a national disaster so that we may be able to mobilize all the resources that we can in the country. Do you support that?
The issue is not declaration. Very pretty words can be used to declare things. I'm just coming.
That a lot of resources.
Yes, I know that. Let's go back. I was not a member of parliament by then, but President Uhuru actually declared a national disaster. But what was there? He gave out 2 billion shillings. It hardly touched the ground. That's why Kinaduala and the rest were making, where is that money? So declaration is one thing, doing and implementing another thing. You might not even declare disaster, but actually your hands and support can be more than the declaration. So it's good to declare. We wanted to do it. Has been declared, and actually it has not been removed. Since Uhuru declared as national disaster, it still
actually he declared a national emergency.
Uhuru was a national emergency?
Yes.
I don't know. Whatever he declared, is still that quotation stands. So it's still a national disaster, national emergency, national whatever. But what we want is is upscaling of the response. That is what actually it's there. When we are talking of declaration, we don't want the words. What we want is upscaling of the response through the sectors which are performing to help whatever. So we support the governance in agitating for declaration. But ours is to say we want more resources, more coordination, more response, more government presence and national NGOs presence in those areas. That's what we want. We want it to be declared, but declaration should be supported by the hand itself or the action itself. That's our take.
Honorable Barre, looking at what Honorable here is talking about, declaration is one thing, but boots on the ground should be the next thing. And the national government, together with her partners, are trying as much as they can to ensure that at least there's some food on the table for the 29 counties and the residents who live in the 29 counties, and try to mitigate against the issue becoming even more severe. And the county governments have also had to reorganize their budgets to include this. I want to sample your mind in regards to how the counties are reacting to this national emergency.
Well, as it is now, we are on a transition period to start an excess. We just, the election was just 2 months away, 2 months ago. And the national government is being formed. That is to some extent derailing some issues. Equally at the county level, it's also the same case. In my county, Wajir, the county government is being formed now. The budgets have not been passed by the previous assembly. It's just being pushed now. And there's also a tug of war to a certain extent between the executive and the assembly, because each wants to do things the way they feel is the best way. So I think certain politics also within the counties and is also holding something. So I will urge the county government and the assembly, the executive and the assemblies in my county and also in other counties to work together, because it's an emergency situation that the politicking that will have existed in a normal time should not be there. They should work hard to pass the bill or the budget, so that some activities can be done. I know in my county and some other counties there are quite a huge pending bill, and those people who will have been reached for services are not accepting to do any service for the county government because they've lost trust in the previous government. So the budget must be passed so that some people can even be hired to give certain services like food ration. Somebody can be told to provide such things. But then if the budgets are not passed and there's some politicking between the assemblies and the executive, it's even worse in the situation. Besides the transitional mode the country is in at all levels. That having been said, I think there should be concerted effort between the civil society, the donors, the NGOs. I have done what Honorable Uncle Salah has done recently. I've done 4 weeks ago in my constituency. I think I'm one of the person who began with that, who started with that. So if that concerted effort is going to be done, and people are allocated different areas to attend to, and there's follow-up, there's an MAE on what one has done, and also the political leadership are involved in what the national program, the national what is called support program that's being done. The political leadership also involved, so that they can follow up as to whether this is reaching the ground or this is not reaching. So I think this is the approach we should be taking.
Indeed, and I do concur, Honorable Salah, I do concur with what Honorable Barry is talking about, that indeed it is only 2 months since we were from the ballot. But that said, and that notwithstanding, the issue of drought was there even before we transited to the new government. What can you say in regards to the mitigation efforts that are in Garissa County as we speak?
Minimal. They're very minimal. You saw what His Excellency Ruto has launched the other day. I think 50 vehicles of food ration. My place, the numbers are just too small. County government actually are not doing anything other than because they don't have resources. They have not been given money. So the governors are run up and down, going to the embassies, asking for donations. So the response is just too minimal. And I sympathize, not actually empathize with His Excellency the President. His tray was full when he came in. full of a lot of problems. And then this issue came up. There was no money. He's been complaining. He's been telling us honestly that I made the coffers empty. And even he was not given again time to build his government. Up to now, you see the ministers are not in place. The principal secretaries have not been, given whatever, declared. So you see, it's a half-picked government to start acting. So he's sitting in a situation whereby his government is not in the table. Is halfway done through that. So I sympathize with him, and I know why these issues. That's why we actually not forcing the government, telling them we could have banked their tables, make a lot of noise, but we understand the situation. The president is. But we want still, and having that still, I think there's something he can do, or the government can do. We want him actually, with the help of the county government, with also our input, that response can be done better than this. We don't expect 100% response from him because the situation doesn't allow him that. But at least if 60 or 70% of response we asked for is done, then I think the situation can be alleviated. But we know we are not fools. We are not stupid, as he said. There are few stupids in Kenya. We are intellectual people. We understand the situation the government is in terms of resources, in terms of building the government and forming the government, in terms of the county government. All those aspects combined hinders the response of the county government. But still, we think there's a ball he can kick somewhere. So we want him to kick that ball as quickly as possible.
Yes. And talking about kicking the ball as quick as possible, counties have also grappling with delayed disbursement of funds, and they have argued that this is one of the issues that are hindering the prompt service delivery and especially mitigation when it comes to the drought.
Well, this is true. The county government are affected by delays in disbursement, and they cannot do or implement their programs as they have planned. This has been happening for quite a while, and also there are certain funds like the what is called equalization fund, which has been delaying. I'm sure people have planned for it to so that they can solve certain issues, but then this has been delaying. Equally, I think I must say that this problem of drought and recurs always. We should attend to this and save lives, but then we must plan for the future. That there are issues that are related to the leadership, both at national and county level, but largely the county level and the MPs who are coming from these regions. For us, we depend on livestock, but then the way we are keeping them now, the range management that is in existence now cannot work anymore. And the climatic change, these changes of weather is something that is across the globe. So we must be awake to this and change our lifestyle in tune with the dictates of the current situation. So I think we should save life now. We should do whatever that we can at the county level and the level with a joint effort, but we must plan for the future. This is actually how we should go.
And Honorable Salah, another sector that has been worst hit by this drought and lack of food is the education sector.
Sure.
I saw an article yesterday night where in Turkana, schools have closed because there were children who were attending school because at least they were sure that they would get some ration, some food ration that would be able to keep them in school. And we are headed towards the KCPE and the KCSE. These are exams that will not even know where there was drought in the northern frontier, there wasn't drought. They will just have to do the same exam as other students in the country, the school feeding program. That is part of Turkana. How is the situation in Garissa?
Likewise, the same. It's all over.
It stopped.
It's stopped. That's what I was talking of when I was there in the weekend. 4 boarding schools which housed which had 400 or and above kids in my area have now closed, or they have bare minimum less than 100. It's across. I know that's a situation. And the school feeding program has been one of the things which keeps these kids, because the parents are pastoralists, they go around. So these kids are brought to boarding school, they stay there and they learn. So if there's nothing, there's no schooling. But there's a mistake the Kenyan government has done. The school feeding program was being supported by World Food Program. And all of a sudden, Kenya government said, we can do it ourselves. Do you know that?
No, I didn't know.
Yes, so World Food Program pulled out.
It did?
Yes, somewhere. I don't know whether it was Uhuru's government time or whenever it was. But that, I met the World Food Program because they stay in my area in Dadaab. And I met them. I told them, why can't you support? They said, your government said we can do it ourselves. So we can feed our kids. They pulled out. So now the government has no resources to feed those kids. And those who could have supported have been told to stay allowed. So these are the policy changes the government should do. A statement should be done. They should call stakeholders like WFP and say, now, with this drought, help us. We'll come in again later, but not now. So all the schools are actually closing because of that. That's why there's a motion in Parliament. As we speak today, there's a motion which was there also a week ago on school feeding program, that this should be a policy from the national government. Even make it a legal entity, that students should be fed, because it's done in all over the world. If you go to Sweden, if you go to Norway, or if you go to Europe, if you go to most of the schools in US, school feeding program, it's an integral part of the school, especially for the primary kids. This is what brings them to the school, because you don't know whether this kid has taken breakfast or not. And he comes to the class the same as a kid who has had 3 loaves of bread, and you want him to understand maths or English or whatever. It's hard for a small kid. So that's why when they come to schools, those primary kids, in the morning they ask, have you taken breakfast? The teacher asks. You see? And in Kenya, the kid just comes from Madara, comes to class. In a school in South B with a kid, with the parents of middle income family, and this kid has no, it's the same in our area. So we are telling, this should be taken, there must be seriousness in our government. There must be seriousness in the government in terms of our kids, especially kids under the age of 12 years should be taken seriously. There are kids who go to school, who have no books, who come to school empty stomachs, who have no clothes, even the issue of uniforms. Can the government not provide uniform to the schools? Because if you see, I'm sure you have seen, the kids who come from Madare, Wananda, and Shulena, they go to school with masurali zikona viraka, na mashati. That self bring the mentality and psyche of the kids down, psychologically. You don't expect him to perform the same level as a kid who goes to St. Austin or a better school. That's why you see when they come to job market, this kid is already psychologically affected. He can't perform in interviews. And this kid has been, my kid, of course, will beat that guy. You see that? So there must be compassion in our education system to all Kenyans. That is why this guy was elected, Ruto. That there's a narrative that a lot of our people are left behind. Very few are benefiting, like me. So we don't want that to happen. We want to take care. There must be compassionate in our policies, not policies aimed at, enriching few guys. Like you say, we import maize, for example, and by the time for free, tax-free, and by the time you are saying that by the time that paper comes to the cabinet, people have already brought it to the shipment to the port. So we want a really strategically serious policies, and this should be one. School feeding program should be one of them. That these kids should be, if the government have no money to do that, then it should bring in big players like WFP to take over that role. Otherwise, all our schools, 28 private schools in our area, today only 16 are functioning.
And do they have the 16?
Coupled with the lack of teachers.
And do they have
we have even forgotten the issue of teachers now. We're not dealing with that teachers. Now we're just bringing the kids to the school so that at least they can even play.
It's a myriad of
yes,
challenge.
So it's like in the morning, in the night you're kicked in the ass, you come out in the morning, you're kicked in the face, in the evening you're kicked in the leg,
Okay, Honorable Bar, is the situation the same as what Honorable Salah is talking about? Is that the school feeding program? I saw in Turkana there are some schools that do not have that feeding program. He has talked about in his constituency the food program actually ended. How is the situation in your constituency?
I think the situation is quite the same. I am having quite a number of students not going to do their KCSE. Some of them may not even do their KCP. Just because they're coming from a poor family, they lost their livestock, or some went away with their livestock somewhere far, deep into Somalia or some other places. They had to go with their parents because the teachers cannot feed them. The school feeding program that will have sustained them is not there. Children are being chased from school because the principals or the headmasters are fearing that these children may die of hunger in these schools because there's nothing to provide. So many of my students from my constituency may not either attend KCSE or KCP, or many of them have already left schools. So schools are being closed now. So the situation is the same. Unless we get that program, where feeding program is well entrenched such that is a mandatory for these schools to get them, I don't know how we will plan and how we will get the resources to do that. Unless that is done, with the situation, with the dry situation going as it is, I think we may have very few people becoming or completing studies in those areas. And when that happens with the large number they are in and the lack of employment for such kind of people, I just fear even the issue of insecurity may continue in those areas, and also in the whole of the country, because these are Kenyans, they'll be flying, they'll be moving about. So I think this is very necessary to maintain students in school. We must have serious program on feeding program.
Yes, and still on matter security, the few grazing grounds and the few watering holes are now turning into a huge fight. But incidentally, it's not once or twice that a caucus of members of parliament from the northern frontier have a sitting so as to talk to their people, so we may share the meager resources that we have. Do we have those caucuses? Because we are still hearing the same thing over and over again. Deaths due to grazing lands and due to watering holes.
Those caucuses are there. Even yesterday we had a meeting, we were planning a meeting with the campus leaders, so that at least we can sort out this issue of Tana River and the Ngamias. So those caucuses are there, but they can achieve so little. They can achieve issues of conflict resolution. They can achieve issues of, harmonious coasting, but that does not solve the issue of mega resources. The mega resources can only be done. It's not an MP who does that or a caucuses. It's the government arm which implements projects. So if these projects are not prioritized rightly, those conflicts will always be there. The main problem now is water resource. That's why you see people move and pasture. So if you could subsidize, for example, animal feeds, that there's hays which are produced in certain areas, like ADC farms can produce hays, for example, and large quantities can store strategic hay, like the strategic maize, whatever. You do that, and these things are sold in a very subsidized price in our areas, then I think the camels and whatever could not have come this side. If you could provide water in that area, then the camels will not come to this side. So how will you provide water? Is it earth-filled pans? Because this has been done severally since inception, and that only waits for water from the sky, and it's not coming. So could there be any other things can be done? Could we pipe water? Could you do River Tana? It's just all the water is drained into the ocean. You know that. It's coming from Mount Kenya. Gallons every day are going to the ocean, because that's where it ends. Can we tap this water, make canals, go up to Wajar West or Tarjab, whatever it is? It can be done, because the same amount of money that has been used to do earth fields can do almost 3/4 of these canals severally, and then people are kept there. At least there's no holistic, strategically prioritized solutions to this. That's why you see people jump up there. I go to Samburu, look for pasture. I go to Tana River, look for water. This is what's happening. The caucuses are there, but so little can they do in terms of, it's a knee-jerk response. That there's a fight, you go there and then you tell Poleni Bana, tulizeni kidogo, we are coming. That's the only thing we can do.
Do you hold the similar sentiments?
To a certain extent, but then I must say, we are also part of the government. We are the government, the people are the government, the leaders are the government. I think to a certain extent we share some blame as leaders from those areas, to a certain extent. And unless we find the wrong things we do, we will never get a solution. These dry areas, leaders from this area, these regions have to come together at the county level, both the governors, the MPs, all must come together and realize that the lifestyle as we are doing now is not workable anymore. We must realize that, and we must design ways or policies that will change our people's minds so that they can change the way they are living. We cannot continue to cry about this drought and lack of water when we are many and at the apex of leadership with every resource available. The knowledge that we have, the position we are in, are a resource. We must bring that together so that I see the current drought as a signal from nature telling us change. This is not the way to live. This is a signal from nature. So we must respond to it. We must come together, leave our comfort zone, design things, and take those steps, even if it's going to anger our people. But this, we cannot be crying next year or some few months to come. So we have certain blame to share, because I am the government. I am an MP. I'm a structure. I'm one of the arms of the government. So I am the government. I share blame, and I come from the place. So the leadership at the county level, And the MPs must come together and face the situation and design ways our people will live, so that we influence whatever level of resource or leverage we have to design things at our level, and for us, we will use the same also to influence at the national level, so that things can be challenged in that direction. But that decision must come from us. We really have to come out. We cannot be blaming anybody any longer. This has to come to an end. Now let's save life. But then, if it happens again, we should not be crying to anybody.
Honorable Salah, do you concur that if at all the issue of grazing lands and watering points, if it is sorted out, because it's a current problem, each and every year we have to hear a lot of people injured or killed or animals stolen. If at all we settle this issue of grazing lands and water points, then we will have peace that has eluded the northern frontier for several years because of the grazing lands.
I hope so. That is actually the intent, because we think the main reason for this fight is pasture and water. So if those ones are solved, then I think that issue will be there. But I concur with Hussein. Solutions should be homegrown. Solutions should be homegrown. The solution for Tarjab is not the same as Fafi, because the land is not the same, the climate is not the same, the people are not the same. You know, we can put our things in the table and say that this is what we want. We are the government, as he says, but the government has different functions. Mine is to say this is what should be there, but the government says this is the resource I have and this is what I can do. It's different, the executive, whatever. So we are part of the problem that's there, because all these budgets I'm talking of, Artfields, were passed in the parliament. So the parliament was actually prioritizing wrong itself. But still, I concur with him in the context that it should be a home-based solution. Tarjab has a solution, whatever is a solution. But if what we are saying is, if pasture and water can be solved, then I think I can't guarantee 100% solution, 100% peace. But at least I think now maybe we are going somewhere. Other things can come up. There are people who make castle rustling a fun. Do you know that? Some
and
of the
crime.
It's a sport.
Some communities is a sport for them. Cattle rustling, the cattle which are stolen from Wajir West now, in Hadado area and those places, or in Banane and these areas, in Lagdera. Some communities, it's fun because they are youth who are unemployed, who have guns, who have nothing to do. So they see, okay, why can't I do? Our people also do that, the same. Others come. So it's a sport sort of. So I can't say everything is related to pasture and water. Some of them is related to culture and sports.
Wow, that's something else.
Yes.
Do you concur that at the end of the day, it's not only water and pasture? Some have decided to make this water source of living
sports. Yes.
Sometimes it's also
insecurity.
It's also political. Sometimes some people just
but
want
that's
to.
where you come in, you guys.
Yes.
MPs. That is where you come in and ensure that you fortify your regions. Because at the end of the day, we are fighting Kenyans against Kenyans. You might be different communities, but we are still Kenyans.
Yes, as well. Yes. I think one of the solutions that I really find when I said is a signal from nature is that this issue of free range herding of livestock, that is not tenable anymore. I think I am thinking of a situation where leadership at all levels from these regions come together and design on how we will be keeping animals. And let's have people who are putting a lot of money in cultivation of fodder. They did not have livestock, but they are cultivating this fodder so that they can sell to those who have animals. But those animals should not be moving free like it used to happen, because it's not tenable anymore. Conflicts are arising. We are always solving, clashes because of people moving from one place to another, like what's happening in Kitui areas and those. This has to change. We really have to keep animals in a different way. We must use other scientific and other experience that people have in those fields so that we can change. We cannot do the way we were doing before.
Perhaps we can do some demarcations, because as you have said, is that the communal grazing grounds program is not tenable anymore.
Yes, spaces are becoming smaller. There are a lot of shanty towns, sprouting everywhere. So there's no space to herd animals. You're always stepping on other people's plots or farms or such things. So the freeway actually should be checked. There should be a discussion must be generated around there, and a better way to manage this livestock. We need the meat, we need this livestock of keeping animals because it's part of our economy. But then a better way must be found. We cannot be crying, or we cannot be solving issues between communities, moving their livestock from one place to another place, creating clashes at different places. That should not be happening anymore. And in any case, we cannot be running after pasture that has grown out of rain. we must grow the pasture. And to do that, it cannot be free move. It cannot be free movement. There must be certain level of demarcation and certain level of keeping population of livestock at certain level. I think we must change our ways. That's why I'm saying leadership from those areas must put their heads together and leave their comfort zone to bring a solution to this. We cannot be crying anymore about these vagaries of nature anymore. We have the power, we have the resource, we have every leverage to get a solution to this. If Egypt can plant food, you know, or fruits or such things and supply to us in all the countries, and Israel is doing it, for us to have this big land, these rivers, and in the desert, I think we are remaining in the comfort zone. I think we need to be blamed, and we must get out of this comfort zone. We must find a solution. We cannot blame anybody else any longer.
Honorable Salah, Honorable Barre has brought about a very interesting point that the issue of communal grazing grounds is not tenable anymore. That is at least what he is talking about in Wajir. Do you hold the similar sentiments in regards that something needs to give? We need to do away with that issue of communal grazing grounds. But it's a good point that he has said that when you go to somewhere, to a place, you will be told that you're stepping on somebody else's grounds, and that always breeds trouble when it comes to grazing grounds and water pans.
It's true what he's saying. Actually, there's a lot of settlement which have sprouted recently. The communal grazing land actually has shrunk now in size. That's why you see there's a lot of conflict actually. The size itself has reduced, and the government didn't have a very good clear policies. We never put in place a clear policy on grazing land and when to graze, how to graze. I know of a Mzungu called NRT, Natural Rangeland, I don't know, something like that, Young Greek. He's doing something in our area, Ejara constituency, and he has created something like a conservancy whereby there's he demarcated lands. They demarcated, actually it's just sponsored, I think. They demarcated and they said this area is for grazing wildlife this time, livestock can come in this time, this there's that kind of, you know, periodic timetable set around. So that's a small policy which is just tendered in a small area.
Is it working?
It's really working for them. It's really working for them. But his main aim was just wildlife. So he's just, you know, created a harmonious coastal between the wildlife and the animals around. So these are policies which can be predicated in a larger context, that this area is grazing for everybody, this area is not grazing for everybody. We actually need to come up with a holistic approach to how we can solve this. The issue is it's communal, but what does it mean communal? Does it mean only to some Buru people, or does it mean it's communal that anybody can come and graze? These are policies which are not clear-cut. That's why we say it's ours. It belongs to people for Fafi, that somebody from Tarjab cannot come and graze here. These are things which will come out clear from the government side and you know, legal framework. But as he says, the land is shrinking. It's not communal. It has not been you know, registered in a very formal way. We need that, but the sprouting of settlements, the shrinking of the area, the lack of communal framework, communal land framework, all these put in one basket is making the fruits to rot. So we need to come up with something. But I concur with him that it's true. There's nothing communal now, and there's nothing individual. It's not public, it's not individual, it's not communal. So which is which?
All right.
Yes.
And still on the same, you come from Garissa, Fafi constituency, and when there is a drought, there's always the need to move from one place to another. And Kenya has a border that you will find either Kenyans crossing over to the other border or our neighbors crossing over to Kenya. Have you witnessed an influx of perhaps refugees or people coming to see whether in Kenya there are better grazing grounds?
Yes, of course. Even as we speak, there's a nation of UNHCR High Commissioner is in the country to agitate for influx of drought victims from Somalia. I host the refugees. The largest camp in Kenya is my area. It's called Hagadar. It's hosting around 120,000 refugees, which is meant for 30,000 now. It was meant for 30,000, but it's holding 120,000 refugees. It has encroached to our land. So there's a lot of influx. There's 65,000 this year alone, which came from Somalia, drought victims. I was there in the weekend. I don't know what you have seen. So the influx is there. The numbers are there, and they're still coming, and they need to be, you know, attended to. Registered, given food, given ration. You know, it's like you're a naked man, and then somebody comes and asks for you clothes. You know, we are there, we are in drought, we have all these problems, people of Garissa and Fafi, and our brothers, and these are our relatives, you know. They might be from Somalia, but they are real relatives of me. Some of them are live in my homestead, or my father's homestead. So there's no difference. The only difference is registration and the land we are in, you know.
You seem to be having the same problem
yes,
as well.
So the numbers are there, the influx is there, they are unable to settle them because they are not getting also a resource.
And unfortunately, we cannot chase them.
We can't chase somebody who came to you. You can't chase him. It's just inhuman. So we want the Kenya government actually to say, because the policy from the Kenya government, as we knew before, was that refugees should leave this country. You knew that. There's one time the Jubilee government said it's enough for refugees. By 2022 June, they should have left the country. They have not left. They're still there. So we need a change from the national government to say that the refugees are here to stay with us because we can't chase them now. They're here to stay so that at least these guys can even get funding, these people can be resettled and all those, whatever. So the influx is there, the numbers are there, the camps are overflooded, they need decongestion from the camps. The new ones are still coming day and night. The UNHCR cannot register them because the government policy says no more refugees. I don't know whether they want to take the Tanzania method. Tanzania have chased all refugees, they have closed all the camps. They say no more refugees. Those ones are also coming to Kenya now.
Which is another bigger problem.
It's another problem. As we speak, they are coming through Sunna, through all the Burundi refugees in Tanzania are coming to Kenya now because Tanzania said no more refugees. We are closing the camps. So Kenya now is overflooded. Every day, as the record says, 200 new refugees come through our borders in Namanga and these areas. Live about the Somalia side. So we have, you know, we have been...
And they're coming with whatever they have.
Some of them are coming with the camels. You know, they're coming from lower Somalia region, the Jubaland, the Gedo region, with their camels because there's no grazing there. They might be coming, they come through up to Kitui because these guys, they don't know the land. They don't know, you know, this is for Akamba or whatever. Or they come with their camels. Some of them might be grazing in Kitui. You see, the same way as when there's drought, when there's grass there and good pasture there, our people move from Tana River up to Kismayu, Bardere, those places to go and graze. Our wildlife is the same. Our giraffes grows to the sides and then come this side, you know. So there must be a way to manage this. So the government is having a lot of enormous issues in their basket. But at least they should open their mind. We can chase the Burundians, we can chase the Somalis, we can chase the Southern Sudans. We have our own problems, but at least, you know, as an African, we are Africans, what it is. Our business is Africa. So we are known to be people who share things.
And we are also hospitable.
Yes, we are hospitable. So we need to share with them.
But something has to give. Because at the end of the day, this is a problem that is already there. And now exacerbating the problem by having more people is something that needs to be addressed. Are you having the same issue in your place?
I think it's still the same. Our constituencies are close to the borders, and people cross from both sides. For us, our Kenyan herders sometimes even go up to 200 kilometers into Somalia, you know, taking their livestock there because sometimes the conventional rains that as a result of the sea, because the sea is on the other side, sometimes give some pasture. There's some rain that showers in those areas. So our livestock cross to Somalia. But sometimes even those from Somalia sometimes also come towards this end. We even, to a certain extent, track water from Wajir town to the other side of the border, to the Somalia people, because they are our neighbors. We should thank God we are blessed as a country to have some relative peace, and we are keeping people from other countries. I think we must say thanks to God and also for our leadership for maintaining that peace. So we also have a responsibility of taking care of those who are in need even in our neighborhood. But I think with time, let's manage what is within our borders. As I have said, let us take care of how we are keeping our animals so that it can sustain life and we should not be crying all the time. This is the approach actually we should take. So there must be concerted effort, coming together, caucuses of leadership at all levels, and say these droughts are going to be coming this year, next year, many years to come. Now let us tame it. That approach, I think we should take it so that we can channel the resources that we have, and the policy decisions we need to make should be geared towards arresting this situation, because there are going to be many and more. We should also decide on how we are going to settle on those lands, you know, those mushrooming things. There must be a linkages between the county government and at the national level, because usually those mushrooming towns, as a result of MPs creating, you know, those settlements without having a proper consultation with the council level. Probably intergovernmental legislation should be relooked at or amended, probably, such that there is also consultation to the county government when certain mushrooming areas are coming up. They should be consulted, because at the end of the day, we are tossing the challenge to them. We are telling them, track water to them when there's a problem. Give them a school or the early childhood schools to them. We're telling them take medical services to them. And we are the ones, the MPs, who are creating these challenges to these people. So I think there must be some consultation of certain level that we really need to do. So
and I'm glad that we have been able to talk about matter security and how people are living in the northern frontier, which is actually one of the things that are making the situation either better or worse. And especially when we talk about other people coming in, we talk about refugees coming in, and you already have a problem as a country. Already we are in drought. We don't have food. So an addition to more refugees will bring even more logistical and even a security challenge. By the way, do you have any numbers on maybe new entrants to the country?
On refugees?
Yes.
Yeah, I just told you 65,000 already.
65,000?
Yes, 65,000 to the tune of 100, but actually 65 is known. I think from tomorrow the UNHCR is going to do registering and taking survey. But as we know now, 65,000 unregistered drought victims which came in, and they come by the day. That was 1 month ago. So I think it's going to around 100 or so thousand influx of new refugees from Somalia.
Indeed. And away from how the issue is right now, let's look at the animal offload program that the government had started. Of course, we have seen a number of animals that have died, and I actually don't know exactly what happened to the animal offload program that was supposed to cushion pastoralists to ensure that at least they have money if they don't have the cattle or the camels that they have, which was supposed to alleviate some of their suffering. How is it?
It's not going on. It's as simple as that. Nothing on the ground. I think they tried to do something very few in my area, but I think they have no resources. No money has been given to them on animal offtake programs. Government just response is now food and ration, which is actually small. So that one has not taken off. If it's there, we have not seen it. I don't think whether Tarjab is there, but in my area, it's not there. That's why I was telling the NGOs, instead of you doing this, maybe you do restocking and buying off-stock, instead of doing cash transfers, do for us animal off-take programs.
How is the situation in your constituency?
Well, I haven't seen this in the previous period when my predecessor was there. I'm not even seeing it now. But generally, whether it is there or not, I see that as a tokenism, simple tokenism, which actually ends up becoming a PR exercise. That's not helpful. And I think we should not rely on that anymore. For me, the approach is give power to the people on the ground, in the sense that for us as the leadership from the area, let us decide on how we keep livestock. Two, let us give things that will help the economy of those people, like the roads between, tarmac in the road between Mandera and Nairobi or Garissa, putting the national grid, the power grid, into that place, so that people can begin a different lifestyle, like businesses like factories or industries. People can begin a different lifestyle, can come up. So I am thinking of a situation where the equalization fund, the leadership from both Wajir, Mandera and Garissa coming up together, so that the national power grid can be connected. We can think of how we are keeping animals, so that people can think of even having abattoirs there, with the power, with water, and with a way connectivity, road connectivity to the rest of the country. People will not be waiting for off-take, but instead they'll have a functioning abattoirs, and people will be putting money in their hands, and people will be selling their livestock. So this issue of off-take, I think, should come to a stop. It is not important. I think the best way is to create the environment where people can do better trade. People can present their animals for trade. And other people with money also, or investors, can bring in their money, so that they can begin factories and industries that are related to livestock, and also different from that. They can employ more people, and people can take a different lifestyle. This off-take thing, I think, is not working anymore.
There's some people who would argue that it's better to have money when there is a drought, and then perhaps after the short rains, somebody can do the restocking again.
Yes. Let them do it at their own plans. Let them, not at the behest of a government bringing it.
For me, I think I'm contra to that idea, I think one of the best programs to do is animal offtake, because you see a person who has 20, 30 or 50 camels is losing daily 2, 3, and he can take them to the market because there's nobody who's going to buy a skinny animal. So the government KMC has a lot of holding grounds. They used to call holding grounds.
They have capacity.
Yeah, they can buy, and they have the grazing fields. If you go to other river KMC, you'll see a large tract of land which is meant for grazing. If you go to Mombasa, they have the same. In Macau, if you go to Macau area, they have the same. So they have places to graze this animal. So if they're given funds and they buy the cattle which are skinning and they graze them for 1 or 2, and now luckily there's a ship coming which docked in Lamu last week, which took away. So you graze them for 2, 3 months, off to Oman. You know, there's a source of income. You put some money into the pocket of the herdsman in my area for that few buying of those animals, and you yourself, for 3 months, the government is making profit on that. You know, it's the same way. The 3,000 shillings or 4,000 shillings being for cash transfer is as good as buying the dead animal. You know. Or the goat which is dying. So for me, I think this is one of the biggest pillars in alleviating droughts, that the government should pump money to KMC. They should do animal offtake. It will help us a lot, because instead of these animals dying, it's of good gesture. But the way I can see is that KMC has no money. It has not even paid those who are supplying KMC for the last 2 or 3 years. I've known a lot of suppliers crying around saying that the military guys are not paying us. So deliver what money being pumped to them. So I will really advocate for money pumped into KMC or NDMA, whatever it is, so that annual offtake programs can take off. It's just like subsidies, which will help them. So put money into the pockets of the herdsman, the way the NGOs want to put 4,000 shillings into the pocket of herdsman. And during the rain time, you can even tell them, come and buy the animals. They come and buy at a cheaper price. It's restocking again, you know. They buy at a very cheap price, they restock. Or else, you take them to KMC, make it meat in canned, give to the school kids who are hungry. They have nothing to eat in a complete fashion. So there's a lot of ways to do that. So I advocate for money to be pumped to KMC for animal offtake. This is what I will say.
You wanted to add something?
Well, for me, I think I'm not. Yes, I hold a contrary opinion in the sense that the bureaucracy involved, the wastages that involved, the time involved in such a response is not commensurate to what you expect from such a program. For me, I believe let the environment be made comfortable, in those areas, so that people can little by little change their lifestyle. People from those areas, or from northern Kenya, who have money and who are spread across the country and outside, can come back, and other Kenyans can also come back and invest in those areas. If the roads are tarmac, the electricity are connected to the rest of the country, not gensets that are unreliable, and there is water in those major towns, and how we are keeping animals are changed to a more reliable way than as it is now. I know majority of our people are keeping animals for status reason, that you have this number of animals, you have this, I have this. This mentality must be changed by certain socialization, a deliberate effort to tell them this has to change.
And perhaps you leaders could chip in.
This is actually why I'm saying that we need to be blamed, and we should take part of the blame. That we should start now calling both the governors and the MPs together and say, this is not the way we will be living. This has to change. We must tell our people that this is not the way to live. I think this is the approach we should be taking. But I expect by 2 years or 3 years to come, or by the end of 2 years, this road between Garissa and Mandera to be tarmac, the national grid to be there. Then a number of people can invite their resources so that they can start mini factories, mini industries, so that other activities that will endear people who are keeping livestock to change their lifestyle, or quite a number of youth to be employed in those activities, that will happen. Let's create that environment, and naturally everything will flow.
Do you concur that as leaders you also need to empower your people, and there are some people who will have 50 animals but will not offload them because of the status?
If not 50, there are some who have 2,000, 3,000 camels. There's a lot of cultural attachment to that.
And they will not offload them, they'll just let them die.
They will not offload. There's a lot of cultural attachment to those things. The status related to that.
But they are dying.
They are dying.
Yeah.
But it's better it dies than, offload them. They see that, but not many have. But the majority of them now, those who used to have large stock of livestock, the numbers are reducing. There used to be quite a number of, a big population used to have a large number of stocks, but now because of the subsequent drought on whatever, most of them are coming to town, their kids are going to school, they're changing their lifestyle, pole. So it is there, but still there are quite a number who wants to do off-take, especially those who had goats and cattle, not camel, cattle and goats. No, when they're dying, it's better for them to do the off-take. If you give them a good price of maybe 8,000 for a camel, because a heifer goes for 16,000 maybe in our area. So during drought, if you do at 8,000, they will take it. And they can do that to, buy foods and whatever and all those things.
Or even store.
Yes. But those who are actually, who don't want to do off-take, who had status in terms of numbers, those ones have now reduced. They're only a group. They have to. They're only a group of now men in town who call themselves Association of Camel Owners. You know that? Who have large number of whatever. It's now status for people in town. Actually, the status people in the herds area and the pastoralists have really reduced. It's only somebody like me now who will buy around 300 camels and make it a status saying that I work in Nairobi, but I have 300 heads of cattle unload. But those ones now are the real 1 inches down there. They don't have those numbers these days. The numbers are really reduced in size.
Why I feel us leaders from those regions must engage our people in their lifestyle is that they're always, this drought are recurring, and whenever these animals are bought at a lesser price, they're always going at a loss. So after 3 months is off take again, or 8,000. Instead of you selling at 20,000, you're selling at 8,000. So it's a continuous loss. Continuous loss. At a wider scale. So we must change our people. That's why I'm saying we must engage our people so that they change the way they see keeping of animals. That it should not be status anymore. It must be business. They must have business in mind. And this comes about when you restrict on how and how many to keep.
All right.
Yeah, and that has to come from leadership. Direction must come from leadership. Okay. We cannot go on the way things are. Civilization, so one of the definition of civilization is being able to manage the environment around you such that you can tame it and you can live comfortably.
Okay.
We cannot just be pursuing animals like that and always complain. No, we cannot be complaining.
All right. We will be coming back to this discussion. We are taking a quick breather. Indeed, if you just joined us, this is KBC News Check, where today we are looking at the drought situation, and especially when it comes to the northern frontier, the arid and semi-arid counties. 29 counties now are in the red zone in terms of the drought that is currently ravaging the Horn of Africa region, with over 4 million Kenyans in dire need of food. We still have a lot to discuss. We have COP27. We also have dams. We also have water pans. What is the lasting solution to this perennial problem? We will be right back to discuss more in regards to the drought situation. Of course, for your comments, suggestions, or even where you're watching us from, I'll be sampling them before the end of this live newscast. Let's take that break.